Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fortnightly Frontier. This is Season 4, Episode 13. I'm here. My name is Myre. It's me. I'm here. And I'm joined by Mr. none other. That didn't make any sense. I'm joined by none other than Mr. Darjanator. Darj, what is up, man? Welcome.
I'm also here.
He is also here. Yes, indeed.
Oh, wow. Talk about awkward intros.
It's the best kind of intro. I love cold intros because you can just basically mess around and fluff. It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who needs professionalism?
Hey, you can be a professional fluffer. It's a very high-paying, well-sought-after job. And Darsh knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. Anyway, sorry about the delay. We've been gone 3 weeks instead of a fortnight like is our thing. But that's because, counterproductively, I was in London, in England, and I met with that doofus over there.
Hello, doofus. Esquire.
Doofus, yeah. But yeah, that was like the exact worst thing to happen if we wanted to record a show.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we could have had a Fortnightly Frontier, like, kind of heart-to-heart, like, outside Buckingham Palace with a camera. I think that would have been kind of funny, but, yeah.
Talk about awkward.
Awkward. I think it would have been groundbreaking. We could have been, like, on Twitch IRL talking about spaceships while watching the Queen Mother do her thing.
We could have invited the Queen over.
Sorry, that's...
The Queen Mother?
The Queen.
The Queen.
Yes.
Yeah, so we could have invited her over as a special guest, the specialist guest of all.
I'm pretty sure she's a backer, don't you think? Don't you think she'd be the kind of person who'd like wants to, I don't know.
And probably, yeah. And with her funds, she probably has a completionist package as well.
Indeed, at least one or two, you know.
Yeah.
Where are we going with this, Darj?
That's why we weren't on last time, but here we are. Yay, only a week late. And then, you know, considering we're supposed to be on every 2 weeks, and there's 52 weeks in a year, I keep wondering, why don't we get 26 episodes a year? I mean, because stuff like this happens.
Well, you know, we are based on Star Citizen, and the lucky number of Star Citizen is 42. So it doesn't matter if we ignore some weeks and pretend they don't exist, so we have 42 weeks in a year, you know. It works out for us that way. I suppose.
Yeah, so 21 episodes. So we're aiming for 21 episodes a year. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much.
Okay.
But anyway, so today we thought that we wanted to talk about something that's been, I suppose, on the public eye, on the radar for quite a couple of weeks now because of the latest revelations with that of the Banu, the Vandul, and the Xi'an, and that is the place for race in Star Citizen. I'm not talking about...
I think we have an episode title.
The place... Is there a place for race? I suppose there is a place for race. Yeah, although we're not talking about the human race. We're not talking about, we're not talking about phenotypic variants like the two showcased here on this stream. But but we're talking about the alien races.
Ebony and ivory.
Chocolate and vanilla swirl. Anyway, so
yeah.
Yes. No, we're talking about aliens in Star Citizen.
Alien races, yes.
So
well, the ones we know about.
The
and
ones
I suppose
that
we could also talk about the ones that we don't know about.
Very true. I mean, we could talk about I suppose anything alien related. That's the great thing about conversation. It could go anywhere. Watch out, guys. This is
exciting.
This is a minefield. Anyway, so yes, Darj, take it away.
Well,
while I open my drink.
Yeah, sure. We've been getting new concept for at least 3 of the new races. Yeah, hello, monster. The Vandul, the Xi'an, and the Banu.
And also the Tevarin.
God.
Or are you talking about recently?
Tevarin, yeah. Well, yeah, well, we only got a first look at the Tavaran, but all the other three got complete. Well, not complete, but they got re-envisioned, I suppose.
Banu overhead as well. You can see looking
Yeah, looking very
Turtastic.
teenage,
looking very
mutant.
cowabunga, dude.
as opposed to the original concept that looked actually even more like an actual turtle.
Would you say it looked more
Yeah.
like an actual turtle? I mean, I don't really know too much
Maybe mixed
about
with a
what
parrot.
turtles look like, around the world and stuff like that. I know that the old models for all the alien. Ooh, I do apologize. That was the sound of my mic boom being hit by my drink, which is cider today, if you're interested. Anyway, but
And
indeed,
empty for me because I didn't get any water and I don't drink alcohol during the week.
fair enough. Fair enough. You know,
Yes.
it's,
I'm getting to that age where I need to somewhat watch what I'm doing.
indeed, that is admirable, Bishop of you. Anyway, so I do apologize. That was the Xi'an as well that I saw. This is now the Banu above, but basically
this is-
we were
this is
talking
the
about
original-
the Xi'an before, and basically they're turtles. It's interesting the take that they took on the Xi'an being the way that they are, much more squat than they were previously, looking more, I suppose, I don't know, looking alien is the word. And this is something that people have talked about, and it's one of those topics of contention, as there always are with everything that comes in the game and everything that's new. And it's that, like, the aliens that we have now look a bit less alien per se than things that we've seen.
I don't know. That guy looks really alien
Well,
to me.
the reason why they even bring up the Banu in this argument is because of its really close relationship to that of Groot, the character artist who made the Banu, or that concept that made Groot. So that
Really?
yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, indeed. So there are some definite parallels, I suppose, that you can probably draw from there. Whether or not that makes it any less original or less alien is I suppose subjective. But personally, I loved the look of the Banu, and of all the aliens, it does look freaking alien to me. It's slimy. It's got some interesting thing going on with its internal ears and stuff, and I suppose in game as well, that's going to have some interesting aspects to it as well. In game, when you meet a Banu, it's not going to go, "Hey, hail there, traveler." It's going to scream at you like you're inside a Chinese restaurant, because they can't hear as well. So it'll be really
Right.
interesting. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Oh, well, then maybe they, ever since meeting up with humans, they discovered their biological setback, and have, at least maybe surgically or cybernetically,
Yes.
modified themselves to be more in line with, the volume, at least, indoor speaking volume, I suppose, at least.
That is true, but I mean, at the same time, it makes me wonder which race would make the would bridge that gap. Would a human going to a Banu solely wear ear protectors, or would a Banu wear a headpiece to listen to the quieter human?
But which would you do? Are you the selfless one, or are you the selfish one?
Well, I mean, I suppose you kind of have to take the home turf. The home turf always gets the advantage, in my opinion.
That's true.
If you go to
That's true.
someone's house, you have to live by their rules. I have a Chinese neighbor. Take off your shoes. So if the Banu want me to shout louder, or I would take the earmuffs so I don't get blasted by the loud volumes that they'll use, because they can't do any better. Or
Right.
yeah. So,
Also, that's something that just occurred to me. Do you think that brings along a sort of like a connection, or like a consequence, that their ships are also super loud just because they can't hear them?
that is a very
Like the engine, no sound insulation, so engines always going. in the background, or
That's a very interesting implication for sound design. That's something that I wonder if they would take into consideration. I mean, like a lot of the devs here are super fans, and of course they have a lot of multidisciplinary, I suppose, understanding because they're following development as fervently as we are. I suppose I trust the producers on this one to probably make the better judgment call. Would it be? I mean, it'd be awesome if it was there simply because it would make sense because the Banu are slightly deaf, so they would have different sound regulations and stuff for their craft. But at the same time, gameplay-wise, you don't want to be deafened. Then again, if the ship sounds awesome, then I wouldn't mind if it's super loud, you know?
Right. Also, then there is a single Suli that makes the defenders for humans, and since they are going through, the motions of setting up the controls and the internals, let's say, because it's not 100. The Banu don't breathe 100% human air, so that has to be modified as well. I'm sure they would also, check, is the sound okay? Are your ears bleeding? Also, stuff like that.
I mean, for craft that they're making for humans particularly, I suppose, sure, if they want repeated custom. But yeah, it's interesting for sure. Another thing, going back to because the earliest concept art that we have on display today, in terms of concept like drone art, is that of the Xi'an. And you can, I suppose, across the board, really, the alien races looked a lot more, I wouldn't say alien, but more feral, more bestial. I mean, even in the old Van Duel modelings, like they looked a bit more kind of, again, feral,
more animalistic.
Yeah, the Xi'an that we have now is less turtle and more anthropomorphized, that has more relatable facial features. And
yeah, well, that is one of the things probably why people consider them not to look very alien, because they do have a mouth, a nose, two front-facing eyes. Although, the front-facing eyes are quite a strong genetic or at least evolutionary trait, because you have two eyes at the front, you have stereoscopic vision, which helps you with depth perception and makes you a better hunter. So people at least, or the Xi'an, anyone, an individual who develops those traits is more likely to survive and pass on those genes onto their offspring.
Yes, that being
said, the front-facing eyes, I do understand.
But they are turtles. I mean,
they are turtles.
I always assume that because the only Xi'an craft we have at the moment is the Katual Poa Quark thing, and it has these giant orb-like windows on either side. So I thought that they'd kind of used that, I suppose, eye structure to their advantage, or not to their advantage, but
yeah. So maybe you had like chameleons that they can rotate their eyes individually.
It's very true. I mean, so I'm looking at this Banu image again, and none of them are wearing, I suppose, headpieces that would make them be able to hear people or whatever, or quieter races. So I don't know. Maybe it's not yet thought about or whatever, but we'll see. I'm just super interested to see everything about where they're going with the Banu specifically.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a very interesting.
But just to bring it back, these. I suppose these aliens are kind of suffering from the whole Star Trek syndrome, which is basically humans in suits.
Yeah, I mean, it's very.
It would be nice to see something else.
It's true.
Definitely.
It's true. And
there is a movie that was I think from the 80s or 70s, just called The Blob. And it was an alien. I haven't seen it in a really long time, so I don't know exactly what happens, but it's like an alien visits Earth and starts killing things, but it's basically just a blob, an amorphous blob without any shape. Something similar, like, what was it, Inside? Did you play Inside?
I saw some gameplay of it.
Yeah. In the final portions of the game, you actually take control of this blob that is made up of human bodies and limbs.
Without spoiling too much, of course, to our viewers.
Well, it's been quite a while. If you haven't played it yet, what kind of a gamer are you?
All right then.
But yeah, the way you move is basically you just roll around.
Mm-hmm.
You don't walk. It's not bipedal or any pedal locomotion. You just basically just roll around.
Yeah.
So yeah, something like this would be nice, and to echo Sean Tracy, space whales. Want some space whales? Something that doesn't look like it was just a human in a suit. Then again,
Yeah.
how are you gonna animate that easily?
It's very true. And I think before any of that, we kind of have to also look back to the CEO, his vision and his history. Because looking back at all of Chris Roberts' work before, it's been very, pulpy, Pulp Fiction style, men in suits. Look at the everything, well, all the other races that we know he's had a hand in, like the Kilrathi, that's the one. The cat people, the Thundercats,
the cats.
and the other one as well.
Thundercats,
yeah.
yes.
So it's kind of his thing. So as the spiritual successor of all his work, as his magnum opus, it doesn't come too much as a surprise that these aliens are using these very, very familiar tropish like features.
Yeah.
At the same time, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly that we do need alien races and stuff like that in the game that give us more alien vibes per se. The only issue with that is that then you
How are you gonna fuck them? Exactly.
where there's a will, there's a way.
How do you plan on filling out your universe and me checklist
You really threw me off
without
Darsh.
them being
really,
humanoid?
You really threw me off, man. Like, why'd you have to do that? Why'd you have to do that? But I mean,
Have you met me?
but I mean, sure, that's I suppose in terms of the end user playing the game, relatable. Yeah, I see your point, but
Okay, to not be as crude, humanoids do make you at least from my perspective, would make you feel more comfortable because it is something familiar.
Yeah.
Even though they may have differently shaped faces and maybe 6 fingers on each arm, and purple skin, they're still, head, 2 arms, 2 legs, torso, about the same height.
I mean, at the same time as well, these are just the alien races that we know that the UE have some kind of first contact and dialogue with. It might be that there are alien races out there that are more unconventional. I suppose at the end of the day, these ones that we have right here are the most relatable. Just looking at, for instance, the most recent video game that's come out, without really using any spoilers for it, actually no, let's not use that, but just in case, let me just cover my butt by not spoilering any spoilers, but basically the less human an alien species is, the less you can relate to it, and the less interaction you'll be able to have with it as a result. Okay, so a less recent example would have to be that of Starship Troopers and the insectoid race there. They were very organized, structured, race. Or even in Ender's Game, they had another insectoid race, and they were organized and they were structured, but there was no way of having a dialogue if you can't speak to them. And that's something that you need to kind of, I suppose, consider. These races that we have in Star Citizen, we're fortunate that you can have a dialogue, you can speak to them. If there was a sentient race of rocks in SC, well, rocks wouldn't talk to rocks the way that people talk to people, because, I mean, thinking about it...
It wouldn't have a mouth.
Exactly. From an evolutionary standpoint, I mean, if you were a rock growing up somewhere in sci-fi space, how would how would rocks... I mean... for instance, trees. We have trees today, right? We have the most alien kind of plant life that we have on this planet is the Venus flytrap, in my opinion, and all those other kind of things. They move. They don't move around, but they move. If enough selection pressure made it so that they had to then like move around, and then from there, millennia later, they could then have space travel. Let's say Venus flytraps on another planet evolved, so they had space travel, and then you met them. You'd be seeing like floating spores in space. How would you be able to communicate with that? It'd be weird.
Well, there was a plant creature in a TV show called Farscape. The name of the race escapes me, and the name of the character escapes me because it's been a while. It was a plant, and it did photosynthesize, and it actually did develop humanoid traits.
Right.
Arms, legs, a head with a mouth and eyes, just because they wanted it to be played by a human because the budget was low.
Yeah.
So that kind of got away with that. But it's the more alien, the more non-human or more non-Earth-like organism that they can come up with, the harder it is going to be for humans to relate to them. And like in Mass Effect, you had the Elcors, and what was the purple, shiny, floaty ones? What are they called again?
The Hanar.
The Hanar, yeah. I kind of wasn't really attracted to those. I mean, not like alluded to before, attracted, but from a gameplay perspective or story, I just didn't feel as compelled to do their side missions, for instance, I did for the humans or the Asari or whatever. Yeah.
I enjoyed the fact that they could still like dual wield akimbo pistols and stuff like that. That was kind of funny. But yeah, definitely it was an awesome thing that they did bring in more heteromorphic like creatures in Mass Effect. I would love to see that kind of thing in Star Citizen. I'm sure probably there'll be something like that. But I mean, if there was, and again, the races that we have in game right now, I suppose, are there, and there can't be for a reason, because they need to be for that kind of dialogue, trade, and all those kind of human things that we want. Because looking at it from, I suppose, the biological standpoint, the imperative for all life is to just live long and prosper, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter if they
can on long life.
Exactly. So like a spacefaring plant isn't necessarily going to like trade and stuff. It's just going to live, and it's not really going to give a damn about what person wants, and so it'd be awesome to see that kind of life, but how you'd interact with it and stuff in the game would be weird, or if they could talk, it'd be less realistic, in my opinion, is what I'm trying to get at.
But then this also brings up a totally different notion. How much of alien interaction are we actually missing out on just because we are unable to perceive them as scientient beings?
Indeed, and that's a great question.
In Star Citizen, not on Earth, because that's kind of stupid. But in Star Citizen or in like any other scientific or sci-fi movie or TV show, just how much of such life is happening on a level that we aren't able to comprehend.
It's very
on
true.
Such a higher level or much lower.
Yeah, I mean, like, the human race is limited to perceiving things that the human race needed to perceive as it was evolving, so, like, as you were mentioning before, there are different sci-fi races that, different minds like Roddenberry and such have touched upon, which do kind of bring those kind of things to light. Like, in Star Trek, I can name dozens upon dozens of these kind of races, which do in some way interact with people. But, for instance, the prophets in the wormhole, you got the Beta Z people that, that can basically talk through emotions, mirth, and that kind of stuff. You have Q, which is like interdimensional kind of creatures. You have those creatures living in the black, in Voyager and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's so many different, I suppose, avenues for life that you can get in, I suppose, and imagine anything. Like in Futurama, the god, basically, that Bender meets.
Yeah.
Anything could be life. But because we're simple people, simple, tiny, puny humans, we might never be able
We
to.
got quite narrow vision.
Exactly. And even if we did have those things in Star Citizen to see and to. How would you interact it? It would bring upon some other, I suppose, gameplay implications because, okay, sure, you have this non-humanoid species that you can't really communicate with, but it might be complex, but how would you go about it in terms of not just sci-fi and us talking about this reality, but how would you then convert it to a game? How would you make it so that it would be rich and immersive for you? I mean, how would that work? Maybe there might be a race out there that can communicate with humans, but has got one foot into the other side and can also communicate with them, That'd be an interesting thing, Like, people were talking about having an interpreter, on board to help you, speak Banu or Jean. Why not help you speak interdimensional, That'd be really cool. But yeah, also space whales.
Space whales.
Yeah,
yes.
space whales would be awesome. But again, how do you talk to space whales?
You would need a very powerful telepath from Beta Z. And you would name the space whale Gumtu.
Yes.
How's that for a reference?
Indeed. But in terms of overall design for all the races and where they in this game, we were talking about before how Star Citizen as a game is, draws a lot of inspiration from Chris Roberts' older work on more, Star Trek-y style character development. How do you feel about the actual character development of these archetypal races that we have so far? So, we have the Vanduul, which are your archetypal antagonistic, evil, war roving creatures. I mean, do you feel like they might be a bit too cliched? Or do you think that because of the way Chris Roberts' vision is, it kind of fits in nicely? I mean, I know a lot of people... sorry, I'm answering my question, which is idiotic.
Yes, you are.
Go ahead.
No, go. I don't want to break your rhythm.
But basically, Chris Roberts has this vision for this kind of thing, and the evil things look evil. But at the same time, what if they're not evil? I mean... Chris Roberts can have one idea.
There's just a lot of things we don't know. Like, what if the Vanduul are just encroaching into Earth space because they are running from something? I read that comment on Reddit, and it's a very interesting idea.
Yeah,
and I hope there is a lot more to the Vanduul apart from them. Just being a race of warlike creatures. Because there is a quote from Star Trek, and I'm gonna butcher this so much. Villains who twirl their mustaches are easy to spot. It's those who clothe themselves in good deeds that are the dangerous ones.
I mean, it's awesome that you bring it up because, in popular media, you do have people who look evil. You have people who look like the good guy. But in reality, if you see somebody who does have a dastardly mustache and he has a wily way with his eyebrows, it doesn't mean that he's gonna. It doesn't mean that he's left a dame on a pair of railway tracks. It's just how they were born, right? So
they were born with a mustache they need to twirl.
Well, I mean, Get off my back, Mal. But you know what I mean? So by that same token, the Vanduul may look like cannibalistic, monsters, but are they? I know that right now that there's very difficult relations with them, and they are pretty on edge with everybody, including the Banu, who they contact with, are in trade with. In some recent lore that we had in the most recent jump point, where they were talking about the merchantman and how that works, it was through a really interesting eyewitness perspective of this guy who was traveling with the Banu solely and looking at this ship that was designed for humans, not designed by humans, the T-shirt people, but designed for humans. And the Banu was showing how safe the merchantman was, and then the Vanduul just appear, and he's like, "It's okay, we trade with the Vanduul all the time, we're safe," and they open fire instantly. Unless the Vanduul have some high-tech scanners that can detect humans inside or whatever.
I think there's a lot to the Vanduul that we don't know about. At least I hope We do. Because if they're just too archetypal and too narrow in their scope, I think I will be disappointed. Although Squadron 42 does take place in a small, only a small slice of the human Vandal interaction, because they have been, in skirmishes for 200 years, so or something like that.
I mean, they are designed to be extremely
there will
feral.
be future afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, like, perhaps the Vandal you see up here are from Star Citizen, as opposed to the Vandal that you saw in the concept art before, which could go into all like, planes running all four mode. I mean, like, I don't know what the design implications were for having that suit. How would that work? I mean,
I think as they are more animalistic than others, because they do have this sort of dog leg type lower limbs, and at least from, if my memory is correct, at least for what we saw in one of the previews of the mocap, you could see one. Was it either? I think it was Andy who showed it, how they just for running they just go on all fours.
That was Andy Serkis, yeah.
Yeah. So unless they scrap that, I think there will still be some sort of animalistic
tendencies, features.
No, animalistic features to their behavior like that. Yeah.
Definitely. And you know how for us as people, you have martial arts like experts and stuff like that. I can imagine like a martial artist in Vandal, like a territory or whatever, to be then like an all fours guy, to have like special like Vandal martial artist clothes. So his armor is fixed for him to kind of be in that position most of the time, because that's where his teeth and claws are both best utilized and stuff like that. If the Banu can specialize in all these different kind of ways, then why can't the Vandal? Speaking of,
because well, they said that the Vandal that we have met are just the raiding parties. They are the warriors of the race. Maybe they're like the other types of Vandal, like the politicians, the scientists, the doctors, because you do need those.
Yeah,
you can't be a race of just warriors without all the other disciplines backing you up, because otherwise you just kill everybody, kill yourselves, and die off. So there need to be Vandal to do those things. Maybe they are biologically different to the Vandal that we know. Maybe they're a lot less animalistic, more sedate, don't have these dog-style lower legs. Maybe just walking upright, just like humans do. Because there's just so much we don't know. Well, maybe they don't even look like fucking piranhas like this guy above.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be like in Star Trek with the way the Klingons look differently and stuff like that. Because of when they were designed, and then they had to retcon it with wishy-washy hand wavium and science that made the head crest disappear. But we know, all we know is that the Vandal, indeed, all we know is that the Vandal have different clans and different tribes, and they almost operate by themselves unless they're unified by a king kind of Vandal who unified the tribes to go and do something.
A call.
Call Vandro or some shit.
Yeah, sure, why not?
But that's very true. The antagonistic Vandal that we've seen in the Bishop speech or whatever we've heard of may not necessarily be indicative of the rest of the race, although that's very Halo. But anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because Halo, I don't really know what the terminology is, but they were not a single species, but a conglomeration of the various species, and each species had its own specialization. You had the leading caste, and you had the warriors, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. So
that was actually done quite well. All those aliens do look very non-human.
Yeah. I mean, That is also another thing. I mean, like, so yeah, so they were called the Covenant in Halo as well. Yeah,
that's
but
right. That's right. The Covenant.
yeah,
Yes.
but at the same time, yeah, they looked alien, but I suppose what looks alien as well. I mean, we kind of accepted that. Okay, these guys, they look kind of humanoid. They're bipedal because it's the easiest thing, gameplay wise, not just in terms of them as an alien race, but like in terms of interactions and the gear, and their spaceships
And development and mocap
exactly.
and stuff like that.
Indeed, but yeah, I lost my train of thought in a belch. It just went disappeared. So, oh yeah, it's an interesting. But at the same time, look at any alien that has ever been designed, ever, by people, and you can always draw Earth-like parallels to it. People will always do it, or they will draw parallels to something that already has been done before. I mean, look at the mimics in Prey, and look at head crabs. People will say, "Oh, look, the mimics look like spindly black head crabs." Look at the bottom. People say, "Oh, it looks like Groot." Look at frickin' like the Nerubians in World of Warcraft. People will say, "Oh, it looks like the alien, the insectoids from Starship Troopers." I mean, like people will always look at the alien from Alien. People will say it's a guy with rickets in a gimp suit. I mean, people will always just draw these parallels because they will.
Yeah, there is really very few that can be described as completely alien. Maybe like Andromeda Strain, if you've seen that movie, is basically like a metallic thing made up of geometric shapes that just exists and is menacing. But but because it is like that, it loses out on some of the more like on agility and dexterity that would also make another type of alien more menacing, like the alien from made famous by H.R. Giger.
Yeah.
And speaking of Covenant and aliens, you gonna watch that movie? Alien Covenant.
Of course, I haven't seen Covenant. No, is that's the one that's already out? Yes.
No, it's coming out in a few weeks.
No, I haven't. But that's not the one that they said is going to be a direct successor or direct sequel to Alien, right? Or
no, there's going to be a movie coming out later that is chronologically in between Prometheus and Covenant.
So no, I have not seen it, but I would love to. Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy yet?
I have.
I have not, so shut up, Sheila. Okay,
I will.
I definitely will. I definitely will. But yeah, so all that aside, because I don't want to talk about anything to do with G of the G, but G of the G, yo, Myre, you're so hip with the lingo. Anyway, what would you love to see alien-wise in the Star Citizen? I guess is my question to you.
Well, something spacefaring, like living in space.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Again, space whale, right?
I'm in a complete agreement with Sean Tracy on this one. Space whales. And also, maybe something aquatic.
Aquatic
To the aquatic aliens
or
that
aquatic?
Equestrian. Aliens that evolved basically from fish, but they also travel in space in their little fish bowls.
Okay, all right. In the little fish balls. I mean, like, when you said that, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind in terms of, I don't know, like, evolutionary, like, the Vanduul definitely looked like they had their beginnings. Well, I suppose if you think about it broadly, we had our beginnings from aquatic as well, right?
Yeah, of course.
But,
yes.
yeah,
but they look a lot more fish-like.
They look like they jumped out of the pond a bit later. They're a bit more pruny. They're a bit more pruned up.
Yeah, the new concept art, the mouth, it looks exactly like a piranha fish. And also, this reminds me of something else. How much variety will we see? in these aliens. Like humans, they have a lot of, at least from the beginning, will have 9 different heads you'll be able to morph between, and you have different skin colors, and maybe later on a difference in height and build.
Yeah.
But will we be seeing any of that with the races, or will it all be just limited to skin color and armor they're wearing? Like red buff here. Oh, you missed it. Well, it was a red and a blue. Taveran, and then we have 3 concept heads, and they said they picked one instead of. I would love to see all 3 of those.
I mean, that's very true. I mean, just look at how broadly people differ in our species. Again.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got
2 good examples, right?
Exactly, here. 2 very interesting and 2 very disparate-looking specimens from Homo sapiens right here on this channel.
Yeah, exactly.
Lady Xenos, how you doing? Anyway, so it's very true.
And you were giving me shit about that comment I made previously. How very dare you?
It's true. Go on the question. I derailed myself.
Right. Yeah. The Vandal are bioluminescent, and that's also a trait shared with fish,
deep sea fish,
and other human fish and other human seafaring creatures. And I think they also mentioned that the Banu will have different skin tones, but will there be different shapes of heads and maybe some have horns and maybe some have slightly different shaped horns, and,
I don't know about horns per se when you're comparing races and stuff. Maybe it depends how, I suppose, pulpy and gamified they want to make things look at the end of the day. I mean, like if World of Warcraft can make the Pandarian race or whatever, Pandaren race even, and have, you can be a red panda if you want, but that's nothing to do with like the other pandas that you have and stuff like that. Why not? Why not? I mean, it's interesting.
Can you be a trash panda?
Get out here. I don't know. You can't be a raccoon in no. But it's a really interesting question actually, because so the Vandal, we don't really know how you'll be able to talk with them, how you're going to be able to talk with them. Many races have no luck talking with them, even if their race in general have had discourse with them in the past. The Vandal are bioluminescent, the Banu are slightly deaf. So like
the Xi'an love pizza apparently.
I mean, like, where do you think the Xi'an's quirk would be? Because they do have external ears. The Banu, they don't have external ears, so they shout a lot, and they have that the weird culture that has nothing to do with all that kind of stuff. But I suppose, okay, cultural wise, we know that the Vandal are vandals, and we know that they're bioluminescent. Culture wise, we know the Banu are traders and they're deaf. What do you think the culture of the Xi'an's like?
Well, have we actually seen what they look like in the new concept of from the head down?
I don't think so. We've only seen like the bust. Yeah.
Because a lot of that would dictate what they're like. Maybe are they like it's insinuated they're very short and stocky, or is that, or does it change completely? Are they very slender with huge long arms? That also kind of brings along with the cultural differences. If a race is like fast or slow and lazy, they will make their technology to suit that sort of lifestyle.
I think that one concept art image of one face is definitely not enough to draw any conclusions at all.
Exactly.
And I think that people are too quick to judge. I mean, even with this awesome image, the Vandal, I mean, sure, because they're more reptilian. I mean, like, I can't tell the difference between 2 turtles if I looked at them. So, like, how could I tell the difference between two Xi'an or 2 Vandal? But at the same time, just look at the species that we know the most, we're most familiar with, people, right? Like you have people with really high cheekbones, like almost Banu-style cheekbones, and you have people who look like the Xi'an concept, like really squat and stocky.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll have to see.
Does that bring up a question? Are we just so much more
Familiar?
familiar or not triggered, but wired up to see differences in human faces and features, or are other species, and I'm talking about cats. Cats I can tell the difference because they're just so different between each other. Or are the other species on Earth just so similar to one another?
Okay.
Because I had 2 guinea pigs
Yeah.
and they were exactly the same, and I couldn't tell the difference.
Well, I mean, so I think one thing that what we do know, at least for now, that we just heard right here on the Fortnightly Frontier, is that so right here we see this Xian, and it's pretty almost Argonian from Oblivion in terms of its stature. It's very elegant, right?
Yes.
But character concept artist Jeremiah Lee has gone on record as saying that the Xian are not skinny. So I suppose that kind of means broadly as a race, that I don't think.
So does that mean I'll be able to cosplay as Xian without having to go on a severe diet for several years?
You might have to work on your skin though.
Well, yes, wear a mask and everything, but body style.
Just go to the store and get a TNMT.
Right.
Yes, indeed.
So we went there. Yes, we actually went there. We alluded to it a few times, but yes, now we actually went there.
They do. There are some interesting similarities, and to be honest, why not? Because in the most recent Turtles movie, it was alluded to that they weren't actually mutant turtles; they were aliens. So I don't know.
Okay. I actually haven't seen it because it looks so stupid in the trailer.
So there is.
No, I think I definitely won't see it. But there's also another thing.
Yeah.
This isn't just speculation then, though. With the Banu, they have confirmed that they are very. It's based on like Mesopotamian or Persian style. Like you got they are traders. You got huge bazaars, and does that bother you? I mean, you have the Vandals that are based on the Vandals and the Goths, raiders from the north, and you have the Banu who are the Persians, and you have the Xian who are supposed to be sort of kind of Chinese. Even the name sounds Chinese. Does that sort of thing bother you that these things are so much rooted in Earth history that they're not coming up with anything original?
Personally, definitely not. And the reason why is because basically, history repeats itself.
That's true.
And even though the players may change,
anything we learn from history is that we'd never learn from history.
Exactly. And even though the players may change, from people to countries to interplanetary species, relationships and that kind of stuff. It's just a constant cycle of repetition and ignoring the things that happened in the past to some degree or another. So I enjoy that.
Especially if you're Banu who have no interest whatsoever what happened in the past.
And
they live in the now. They're like Edna Mode.
And I like that. I really do like that. I like that that it's set in the future. But all these events and stuff are relatable to human history in terms of things that have happened. And even though the parallels are more, I suppose, deliberate, they are there. And it kind of makes you kind of feel more like above it all and, involved as if it was a completely new thing, if you know what I mean.
Right. It makes it more familiar.
Exactly.
Especially if you have read up on your history.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose there needs to be some catch to easily draw the people in. If you came up with something completely new, completely different to anything that's been written before, it may prove difficult to pique people's interests. Yeah. Like even in Star Trek was similar thing. It was based on the Roman Empire.
Indeed. Indeed, you know.
Yeah.
And why not? Why not use the past to influence the future? You know. Anyway.
Okay, I suppose. Yeah.
So,
You?
I guess that's probably all we have time for in terms of the podcast.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
It has been. It's about that time.
This has been a very feature-length episode of the Fortnightly Frontier here on Twitch and YouTube. So yeah. We're not very good at our openings, but we're even more terrible at our endings.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh wow.
Indeed. Yeah. So
So just go for it.
all right, play us off, keyboard cat. Do we not have that? Okay.
No,
So
I think you'll have to wing it.
all right, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for watching us here on Twitch TV Live or on YouTube. Every Wednesday we release that. I've been Myre, and I've been joined by the illustrious Mr. Darjanator, and
That's me.
that is him indeed. Thank you so very much. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. It's a very enlightening one, I feel. I really do like discussing this part of the game. As much as Darj loves the really complicated, boring back-end stuff with the game, I just enjoy...
Oh, how very dare you.
Yes, indeed. I enjoy things like this the most. Yes, that's it from me, and that's it from
And that's it from me as well.
Indeed. And we'll see you in the verse. We're the lamest bunch of internet people on the internet.
Yeah.
Somebody that I hire from Area 18 to come on my ship will try and test my defenses, and if those defenses are lacking, then you know what they're gonna do, right? They're gonna try.
It's gonna be their edges.
Exactly.
Sophie.
So obviously we had Ryan.